Hey everyone, welcome to the 23rd episode of the Coffee with Cosmos DB series. If you have missed to join our last episode, you can watch the recording playlist under Coffee with Cosmos DB. Also, if you're interested to present in this channel, please submit your talk via the link displayed in the description of this video. To the audience, if you would like to know more about a particular topic or a feature, please ask in the chat so that we can take it up and discuss in the upcoming episodes. If you're joining this live session for the first time, this series is all about spreading the knowledge on Cosmos DB by the experts to the community. So please make sure to subscribe this channel. And those who are looking to learn more about Cosmos DB, if you're interested to present or have any feedback, please reach out to me. And thanks for all the support and feedback so far. With that, we have a special guest for today. Today we have Wassim, who is a senior developer advocate at Microsoft and also a Google developer expert for Angular. His work to the JavaScript community has been amazing, and he has been an inspiration to many developers. Great to have him. Let me add him to the stage. Hey, Wassim.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. Ready for
Yeah.
today's show.
Yeah, it's great to have you as well. I think today's topic is very interesting to developers and also especially for Cosmos DB users. Given that Cosmos DB is a go-to database for developers, we have our own SDKs, and also when it comes to building web applications and also server-side applications, I think JavaScript is the widely adopted language, and
Yeah,
it's been ranked number one in all the surveys as well. So I guess today we are going to talk about the package that you built for the
sure.
Cosmos DB support. Yeah, take it over.
Yeah, thanks. So the package that we're going to talk about today is specific to Nest.js, the JavaScript framework for backend development, which is super popular. So yeah, for the story, we teamed up with the Nest.js core team 2 years ago, like a couple of years back, to basically build an experience for Nest.js developers who are using Azure and specifically Cosmos DB. Um, the idea here basically is to leverage the Cosmos DB JavaScript SDK and basically offer an experience that's idiomatic to Nest.js developers. Using the Nest.js um, terminologies and lingua. So yeah, we sat down and we built this package called Azure Database, which is specifically to uh, storing like data in database, because we also have another one for storage or like buckets and blobs and everything. But this one is specifically made for accessing database. In Cosmos DB, there's also another alternative for uh, table storage, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so yeah, that's the package that we've built, and it's been widely used by a good bunch of Nest.js folks. And yeah, I'm happy to walk you through like the experience, and also happy to answer any of your questions.
I have a question like, what was the
Sure.
motivation behind building this package? Is it based on the request that you got, or is it you experience with Cosmos DB which made you to build this like package? Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the discussion came up when we were chatting with the Nest.js core members, specifically Camille. Basically, they have like some data showing that they have a lot of users who are using Azure as a public cloud, and yeah, specifically again Cosmos DB, and they just wanted to offer a streamlined experience, for Nest.js, because obviously the official Cosmos DB SDK is like generic. It needs to be, to work everywhere and with every framework, so it's not really opinionated or anything else. So yeah, we wanted to offer like again an Nest.js specific experience, just to simplify the onboarding experience for those people. Um, don't get me wrong, the SDK, like the official Cosmos DB SDK works fine. It was just, you had to learn how to use it and everything, and because it wasn't made specifically made for Nest.js. And since Nest.js is is based on, there are like some pattern that are borrowed from Angular, the Angular community and Angular framework, with this design patterns like dependency injections and modules, and those services and the stuff like that. So yeah, we just wanted to offer that, like, package the Cosmos DB SDK and offer it as a Nest.js package. And this is, yeah, this module is the result of this collaboration with the Nest.js team. Yeah, really nothing like problematic with the SDK itself, with the official SDK. It could be nice, to have like a Nest.js specific experience, just to speed up the like configuration and also accessing and managing your Cosmos DB instance.
Got it. Okay.
So I've already shared my screen, my VS Code window here, and yeah, basically, yeah, you start by installing the package from npm. Let me show you. I think we have like a README somewhere. Open preview. So yeah, the README is like good enough to get you started. And again, today we're focusing on the Azure Cosmos DB support. We're not going to look at the excuse me, at the table storage. So yeah, the package, you can grab it from npm like any other npm package. Nothing fancy here. Obviously, you will have to have like a Cosmos DB instance created on Azure and up and running also, because we will need the database name, the database endpoint, and also the database primary key, which we will basically store in a .env file. And I assume people are already familiar with the .env like files and configurations. That's basically a Node.js npm package that simplifies like using and storing environment variables like sensitive data and everything. I have one created here, obviously, for the demo for today. Yeah, you can see the values because they are hidden. I'm using I'm using a VS Code extension that hides the sensitive data. But yeah, you can find it easily on your either if you're using the Azure portal or the Azure CLI, you can get values. Otherwise, if you don't know where they're stored, yeah, let us know, and I think either Sajid or myself, we can guide you. But basically, yeah, once you have the environment set up, then if you're familiar with Nest.js, so basically we will need a Nest.js module that's specific to like our use case. In my example for today, I am let me close this one. I'm using like event example, like creating, deleting, and like editing events like conferences, YouTube shows, meetups, this kind of like events. So I already created like an event module that will hold this domain for me. This module obviously is imported in the main app module for Nest.js. Again, I'm not showing all the commands. If you don't know how to use, like, and create, either you can create manually or use the Nest.js CLI to create those for you. They have like a really great command line interface to help you create all these files, like Angular does, which basically this using the same approach. So I've created the event module, which is this one here. And for this module, I'm importing the Azure Cosmos DB module from the package we are talking about today, that we're presenting today. This module needs some configuration. First one is basically calling the for root method. And again, this is inspired from Angular. So I assume you're familiar with this if you're already using Nest.js. And then, yeah, we will need to pass it to the configuration that we stored in that env file and that we grabbed from our Cosmos DB instance. But, yeah, the again, if you're familiar with .env module, you need to import it manually so that you can read the process.env environment variables. Um, that's what we are doing here. Somewhere, yeah.
There is a question on the chat. I guess the question is more around, I think you already spoke about it.
Yeah,
Is the package using the Cosmos DB SDK behind the scenes?
correct. So the latest version of the Nest.js Azure database package is v3, and it was released a couple of weeks ago. And this special version uses the latest version from Cosmos DB
Got,
JavaScript SDK. And it's also
got,
supporting the latest version of Nest.js, which is v10, I guess.
got it.
Yep. So
I
then,
got
yeah.
another question. What is the
Sure, sure.
parameter retry attempts?
Oh, so basically the arguments you pass in here are the one supported by the Cosmos DB SDK, JavaScript
Okay,
SDK, and the retry attempts basically if the let's imagine you provided a wrong key, a wrong access key or endpoints or something like wrong configuration. So the SDK will try to retry multiple times, and I think the default value must be, correct me if I'm wrong, like 3 or 5. I can't remember which one.
yeah,
I'm just like here telling the SDK just retry once, and basically if you fail, just crash. Um,
got it.
this is optional. I can just remove it. It will use the default value. Please refer to the documentation to like to get that exact value if you're not happy with the default one. Yeah, basically by providing these values, the Azure Cosmos DB Nest.js module will configure the access for you and connect to the database and basically provide the containers and everything for you. Yeah, the next step is to basically create what they call like it's an a DTO. That's like what is it? Again, like DTO entities and all stuff. I'm not going to go into details. I assume people are already familiar with the terminologies. If they're using um, uh, Nest.js and specifically ORMs and all those tools. So yeah, we are just creating this DTO, this class, and provide it as a feature here for our Cosmos DB module again. Because this is then we're going to is going to expose us containers and some APIs to work with this specific DTO, this specific event DTO, to be precise. Yep. So now that we have our module configured and loaded, the next classic step I would say is to create a controller, a Nest.js controller, which exposes your CRUD operations, your get, post, patch, delete, all these HTTP methods. Again, this is like a traditional Nest.js code, and there is nothing specific here. The only thing that we are using basically here is an event service that we already need to create, just to the to satisfy the SRP paradigm, like a single responsibility principle. We're basically delegating all the operations to the service. And our controller again is basic one. It has a get call, like get all events, get specific event with the ID. I'm going to go into more details about the parameters and everything. And yeah, creating a new entity, deleting one, and also updating it, an existing entity. I also need to, because I'm talking about entities here and everything, that's something you need also to create. This is like, again, mandatory, because this is how we were going to configure our Nest.js Cosmos DB module or package, by basically creating an entity and calling. So an entity needs a partition key. That's required by Cosmos DB. If you're not comfortable about what a partition key is, probably Sajid can explain it better than me. But
Yeah,
um,
I think partition key is
yeah,
one of the
go ahead.
fundamental concepts when you're using Cosmos DB. Like when you create a container, partition key is a mandatory input that
Yep,
you have to give. That is basically to, you know, that is how we shard the data. Actually, we
yep,
have this concept called physical partition as well as logical partition. So when you provide the partition key value will be used to have the logical partition in place, and then
correct.
based on the partition key, the physical partitions will have the data distributed across. So Cosmos DB being a distributed database, that's how it works. Yeah.
Exactly. That I think, yeah, that's the keyword here is a distributed database, because that's like a common use case for any distributed database. It's to have like a
Yep.
partition key, and Cosmos DB obviously has one required one, and we provide this information to the SDK, to the underlying SDK, by using this Cosmos partition key annotation that is exposed by our package. So here we decided that our partition key is going to be our type property. So we just set that easily. And then, yeah, our date, just for as an example here, our date created at property is a Cosmos DB datetime specific type. So we can also grab that from the package and annotate our um, property. That is not required, but if you want to use it, that's also provided. So yeah, this is our entity, and excuse me, the um, the next step. So we have our controller, we have the entity, we have our DTO. So the our logic, our business logic now lives inside of this service, the event service that we also created. And yeah, that service exposes all the method that are basically used in the controller, or like we can see like the create, the get event, yeah, basically, and so on and so forth. And then the important thing here is that in our constructor for this event service, we need to inject our event excuse me, our event entity that we just created. We call the inject model. That's an annotation provided by the SDK, by the Azure Database SDK. We give it our entity, and it should also use that as a type for the container that's exposed here, that we're going to use as part of our service. And basically, this container, again, is a coming from, I should probably mention that. That's the type exposed by the Azure Cosmos DB official SDK. So basically, everything that is being used part of the event container, like everything that every property, every method is the official Cosmos DB SDK method. That's like our Nest.js Azure database uh, stops here in this area. Like everything else is the official SDK. It's just basically exposing that API to you because it was just worth it to wrap all this API and give you like alien proxies or whatever. There is like no need for that. We're just giving you that type so you can use it with basically under the hood. We configured everything for you. Like we configured the types, the DTOs, and everything. Now you have that container. So yeah, feel free to use it to manage your database, your tables, or excuse me, your documents. So in this case, creating a new event is like straightforward. Well, there's like a check if we don't have an ID, we just create one. Like you can use any like a library or manually as I'm doing it here. That's just for the sake of a as an example. And then yeah, we're calling event container items create API and giving it in excuse me, giving it our detail, and that's done. It gives us the resource, and then we return that to the controller. Feel free here to manipulate your resources because this is the exact resource coming back from Cosmos DB. If you want to like map it to a different shape, feel free to do it. That's up to you. Getting an event, same thing here. We are using the query API and fetch all APIs from the Cosmos DB official SDK with a custom SQL query here. Basically, yeah, give me all events from the database. If there's an issue or an error, we just catch it and pass that to the Nest.js event handler. Again, like I'm not going to go all the APIs, but the same thing. It's like a CRUD, like typical CRUD operations here. Yeah, nothing really fancy. So yeah, basically that's all what you need. I mean, and you need a module, you need a controller, a service entity, and a DTO. That's like a classic ORM style programming, I would say. So next, 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 let's start our server and try the live example. So here, Nest.js is starting our application, and as you can see here, it's basically blocking because under the hood, the Cosmos DB SDK is connecting to your database. So once it's connected, then you will see basically the app finishes starting, bootstrapping. If there is, by the way, any issue with the connection or network or something, it will basically just crash at this point here. So I'm just saying this as a reference. Yeah, basically our app is up and running on port 3000. That's a default Nest.js port. I have here in my VS Code extension that helps me basically run some CRUD operations on my local server. So my API exposed on port 3000/event. That's again because we defined it here in our controller. We said, hey, this controller is exposed at the event route. So yeah, we can run the get. Hopefully, we will get all the stored events because I did some test earlier. So yeah, we have a 200 response with a bunch of events that I created the last time. Yep. And then yeah, something, yeah, of course I forgot to mention, which is the arguments or the route segments that we are using, that we choose to use, is basically the type and an ID. And if you remember from our entity here, what is it? Entity. Our type is our partition key. So basically, you would be calling this. I think that's. I don't know if that's required or is it like a good practice, but I think you have to pass the partition key because that's needed by the SDK. However, you're not. You feel free to like to choose another pattern if you want to, but at least you need to provide the partition key. So here we
That would
decided.
improve the RUs because I mean, from the Cosmos DB concepts, I mean, everything depends on the RU consumption, right? So if you're passing the partition key, then behind the scenes, it knows which physical partitions it has to talk to in order to get the data. So the number of RUs consumed will be lesser. So that's why it's mandatory. Yeah.
Okay. So what happens if you don't pass the partition key?
It will span across all partitions and then it will consume more RUs.
Okay. So now that's clear for everyone. Great. So yeah, our controller exposes that partition key in the route. So basically, this is part of our URI. So here, let's say I want to fetch one specific event, maybe this one using its ID. So it's of type meetup, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that's a meetup. So our partition key is the type, and the type is a meetup here, and the ID is this one. So let's grab only this entity. Yeah.
There's a question on the chat. Probably we can take that as well. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Does it support pagination? Because some of the features are not supported by the Cosmos DB SDK. I think, yeah, when it comes to Cosmos DB SDK, the official SDK, there are certain limitations when you run distinct some of the keywords. So I think the question is more about are we providing the extensible support for those operations which are not supported by Cosmos DB SDK?
Yeah, so the general answer would be here that the Nest.js Cosmos DB package supports everything that the SDK supports. So if there is any limitation on the official SDK, we're gonna have them in the because again there was like no need, no request for the specific features on the Nest.js package. But since
Got
we
it.
are just exposing the Cosmos DB SDK to the developer, so basically that's on the Cosmos DB land.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think that's something that could be built on top of the Cosmos DB, but only provided by the Nest.js package. But I guess it would require some amount of work to be
Yep.
done. I would suggest we basically implement that in the official SDK. It
Got
will
it.
benefit everyone else.
Yep.
So yeah, basically that's it. If you want, I can go through all the all the excuse me HTTP methods, but here I got my my specific event. I probably can create a new one. Like let's create a new event. Let's call it YouTube. Excuse me. Posting a new event needs to pass in the body, and I already prepared one.
Got it.
So calling it like coffee 21. It's a YouTube type. It's a post method. Let's create one. Obviously, this is gonna create one and give me a new ID. Yes, it's been created. And yeah, this is what I mentioned earlier when we create a new resource in our service and then we just return that raw resource, then we have all this like metadata that are added by Cosmos DB driver. So if you don't want to see all this method, you can just map this resource here and give it a different shape. So basically that's my new event. Obviously I would see it here in my list. There's like nothing fancy here again. Yeah, and I see like we probably have like a couple of minutes left, so maybe we can just like wrap it up and yeah, that's the experience. So I hope
Yeah,
folks
that
are
looks great.
happy.
I think with the demo. Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
It's
I
definitely, yeah,
have
it's
one question, right?
definitely built
Uh,
on Nest.js. So yeah, that's
that's right.
perfect.
I have one question related to the usage of this package. Like, do you know the stats, like how many customers are actively using, or like the number of
Oh yeah,
downloads?
last time I checked, I'm using npm stats. I cannot share my screen
Okay.
because I'm
Yeah.
only sharing, but maybe you can share it.
But
I'm using npm stats and then basically using the name of the package, which is
all right. Yeah. Yeah.
at next. Excuse me. Yeah, you give it this name package here, and it last time I checked a couple of weeks back, it was like 160,000
That's
downloads or
awesome.
something
Yeah.
like that. So
Got it.
yeah, I mean, data is public. Yeah, everyone can fetch the
Got it.
stats.
Yeah. I think we have come to the end of this episode. I know it's
Sure.
we are on time, but thanks a lot, Wasim, for sharing this
Thank you for having me.
the
Yeah.
demo. Yeah, and I don't see any other questions on the chat, but
Yeah.
yeah, thanks a lot for your time as well.
Thanks. I
And we
just want
will,
to give like a quick shout out to the Nest.js team for
yeah,
this collaboration. Yeah. So kudos to
yeah,
them.
definitely. Yep. Thanks a lot for joining, and thanks everyone for joining as well. We will meet again in a couple of weeks with another topic with another guest. Thanks again. Catch you later.